Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Primetime. Now, I've been an educator for the past 9 years or so, and I discovered my passion for education fairly late in life. I consider myself a fairly passionate, enthusiastic educator, but I've been wanting to be in conversation with an educationist on this series. I've been blessed, we've been lucky that we've had people from all walks of life, but we haven't had an educationist yet. And I'm so delighted that I have a very special person with us today. This is someone who was in a pretty well set corporate career, and quite by default, by chance, she stumbled upon her passion for education. Of course, I know the story, but I'm not going to say it. And then, in fact, ended up founding her own school. And today, in my view, of the hundreds and thousands of educators that I interact with regularly, Gurpreet Kaur is one person who personally unendingly inspires me. And whenever I feel a little bit disillusioned with the job, I just have to look at her or say hello to her, and I'm renewed with enthusiasm. That's how passionate she is. It's absolutely palpable. Welcome to the show, Gurpreet.
Thank you so much, Kartik. I am feeling very privileged to be here amongst you, and thank you for your kind words of introduction. I am glad that we can have this session today.
That's wonderful. Thank you for making the time. Now, Gurpreet, as is usually the case, I generally start these conversations by asking my guest a little bit about their childhood. So tell us a little bit about your childhood. Where did you grow up? What were those years like?
Okay, so I belong to a very, very small town, Kartik. The name is Amroha. It's in UP. It's a very small town, and I think I was just lucky that just when I was in my, starting school age years, the first English medium school opened up in that small town, and my parents, thought that okay, it's a good idea to put me there. Otherwise, I have two older sisters who grew up in Hindi medium schools, and their education have been very different than mine. And
Sure.
I think one luck after another. So my father's friends' daughters were studying in hostel, and then I was sent to hostel at an early age of 10. And I think that really shaped my personality quite a bit, going to a boarding school. And after that, I've been only traveling since 10. So different colleges, different schools across India. And then, from colleges, I did my MBA, and then, the journey's been, taken me all across India, exposed me to various cultures, various peoples. So when I look at myself, the open-mindedness that comes, I think it's with meeting so many cultures.
Hmm.
So I think it really, really helped me. My childhood was very, very simple, that way that the family, very, very loving family, absolutely no expectations as such. Everybody was just like, do what you do. So I was pretty independent from the very beginning, like I took my life decisions myself. I really loved psychology, and I
Hmm.
loved reading psychology books and child psychology and everything. That was like my passion. And during my college days, I had to choose between psychology and economics. And you know how you say marginal utility in economics?
Yes.
So I ended up doing economics because like there were 40 seats and 500 students applying for it, and I cleared
Wow.
that. And psychology has some 26 seats and 27 children applying for it. And of course, I
Oh,
cleared both. But there was this thing that when I asked the people around me, like how wrong guidance sometimes, I wouldn't say wrong, but like people guide you in a certain way, and people said, "Oh, economics has such good career options, and you'll be able to do very well financially." And I felt that okay, I need to do well financially, so I dropped out from psychology honors and I took economics. And but though, like even when I would study, economics was only to get a degree. And still in the library, you could always see me in the psychology section reading the books. Anybody would. So my passion always was towards understanding human behavior and how children work and what is the impact of childhood experiences on children. So I would read all that, but I gave my economics degree. And then, of course, I took the economics degree. And after that, I continued with masters in economics. And then, of course, the life took over. I did my MBA and I joined the corporate job.
It had been some time since you had been drawn towards the behavioral aspect of children, so on and so forth, and you're sort of self-studied quite a bit. Then, of course, you have your own daughter, and let's fast forward, therefore, to the main sort of life-altering incident which made you take that leap of faith and take such a gigantic step. So you go out there and you look for schools for your daughter, and then what happens?
I just, if I have to say it in a few lines, I didn't find them to be very thoughtful.
Okay.
It seemed like, it's like a factory, and all the children have to get churned in it to become something. There was no individualization in any way. There was not a thought about what could be the need of different children in a setup. So and I just didn't find any, like, when I was talking, why are we doing this? There was no reasons to it. It was just like ऐसा ही होता है, whether you take it or not take it, ऐसा ही होता है, school तो ऐसे ही चलता है. So there was no, that's what I'm saying, there was no thought behind it. Felt like कि बस ये पढ़ाना है तो हम किसी भी तरह करके आपके बच्चे को पढ़ा देंगे, और ये पढ़ना आना चाहिए इस टाइम तक. Again, no thought behind कि इतना पढ़ना क्यों आना चाहिए एक particular time तक. So I felt that there was no deep thought, in the education system, and it really needed transformation. It is not like, oh, some change, but it needed like a whole different
Dynamic shift.
Yeah. So, and I didn't have my answers then, to say what should be fixed, right? I really didn't know, but there was a sense, call it sixth sense, that something is missing here, and I can't see my daughter, in this place. That was becoming evident the more I visited.
And so, is it so? Therefore, if just I'm understanding you correctly, essentially you saw a lack of any kind of an ideology or a philosophy at any of these places. It was very, very sort of academic goal oriented. That too, not necessarily without any sound reasoning or logic.
So that was one side of it. And then, of course, there was school who said, we are playway methods, so we don't put pressure on the child and things like that. But even in that, I didn't find a thought. It was like, do everything in a, like, so there was a bow tie day, there was a joker day, there was a hairstyle day, like all those things which I felt again, what is the need of bringing all this to a child's life? And again, what is the thought behind it? Are you making the child too egocentric in the process of, constantly observing themselves, comparing themselves to other children, so many competitions, and then a medal for everything, or a certificate for everything? So it's like, okay, we want to keep children happy, no competition, so let's give them certificates for everything. But really, is that required? So again, there was this other side of it also, wherein the school promised that no pressure, only activities, this and that. But again, no deep thought towards why it's happening and whether it's required or not. So for me, again, that didn't answer, the questions that I had on, do you really understand children? Or is it just about, okay, come have fun and go?
So you do the rounds and your due diligence of a bunch of schools for your daughter, and you come away fairly disillusioned. What happens next?
So somebody just mentioned Waldorf education to me, like their child was going in a Waldorf school in Delhi. So we visited the Waldorf school in Delhi, and that was the game changer, where I discovered this education for the first time.
What is it about Waldorf that immediately draws you in such a big way, and then you sort of go ahead and you study and scrutinize it yourself and end up opening your own Waldorf school?
Yeah. So during this 2.5 to 3 hours conversation that I had with the founder there of that school, it was just just the whole depth of the philosophy, like how much we need to understand children, what are their true needs, and what is the purpose of education in itself. These were the questions that we discussed. So this school was not talking about this is the curriculum, and that is what had withdrawn me from other school. The school was talking about real reasons of why the children should get educated, what is the real purpose of it, and how to understand children and how it changes at every stage. Like a 2-year old child, how is he different from 3 year? How is he different from 4-year-old child? As children grow, how do their needs to change, and how as educators and also as parents our role changes. And the philosopher who gave all this philosophy, I mean, it was a time tested philosophy in a way that it existed for 100 long years, and it spread across the world. So Waldorf as a movement, but what really attracted me was this, understanding a holistic view to the human being, and really understanding the needs, as to how we can cater to those needs. So this was a system that was looking at a very big picture, not a short term thing that I want to teach you ABCD today. How do I teach you? That's a short term goal. But how can we raise a human being who is more responsible, who is connected to his own roots in a big way, who goes on to be responsible for the whole world, not for himself. So that kind of attracted me a lot. Not a short-term view, a long-term view. Also, in terms of really looking at the child now. Like who is in front of you is your book, not. And each child as a different person to really respect and revere. So it was this that how each human being is so special and has come for a separate purpose, and as educators we just have to guide them, but
Sure.
not really try and change them or not put ourselves on them or impress ourselves upon them in a way that they lose themselves in the process of growing up. And that's what I could see with a lot of youngsters within my family, within my surroundings, wherein they had passed on the whole schooling system, but they didn't know what to do with their life or who they are. And I
Right.
could see that at that time also, and I see that now also. Like, a lot of the people being lost after the education,
Absolutely.
and they have to start rethink from there. Okay, what do we want to do with our life? And during the school years, they've just turned out to be all doing the same thing in the same way. So that was one of the things that really attracted me, like raising this holistic human being in the right way.
I couldn't agree with you more because during my teaching all the time, 90% I would say of the cases where I have students, whether they are in middle school or high school, they are completely clueless in terms of recognizing their own selves and strengths and weaknesses and wants and desires and passions. They're completely
Yeah.
clueless. They may be
Yeah, they all being
they may
killed.
be generally very well informed and exposed these days. They may be reasonably intelligent and aware, but self-awareness is very lacking. So I know exactly what you're saying. So you have this game-changing 2.5 3 hour interaction. You come away with an epiphany of sorts where you've obviously found resonance with the philosophy and the macro approach that the Waldorf system is adopting towards education and towards raising children. What happens next? How do you then take this forward?
I just came back very curious to know more. So the 3 hours, this was like a very small insight. I got to know is this is something that I need to explore further. I need to know more about it. I need to read more about it. I need to interact with more people around it. So I took a leave from my job and I went for a residential training, it was a 2 week training to explore this education further. And it was in Khandala. The training courses have been happening there for last 20 years now. Of
Okay.
course, COVID has given a
Sure.
break to those trainings, but yes. So we went there. There were around 200 participants from across India, and that was like a very good helicopter view of what world of education is. Like from the starting till the end. It covered all aspects of it, why and what, and so it gave me much deeper insights into world of education and convinced me even more. Like I was very much aligned to the thought process, and I thought this is something I want to give to my child. But after going to that training, the conviction was like very high. And on my way back from the training, I was telling my friends, my husband, everybody, that this is going to be it. This is the education my daughter is going to get. There was no plan at that time. There was no plan to for me to leave my job or to start a school. But
And
the
just, I'm sorry to quickly jump in again. You're coming back approximately what year is this, and how old is your daughter at this point?
this is 2014,
Okay.
and my daughter was 18, 19 months.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So so that's happening, and I'm like, okay, now we have to make a plan as to how. So I was in a transferable job, and for me it was easy to move cities and go to a place where there is a Waldorf school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a thought that I had in my mind, initially when I thought of the this school for my daughter, or this education system for my daughter. So, but then when we discussed, my husband and me, and we were thinking, okay, how do we give this? So, Waldorf is also very rooted education. Like, it believes in your own culture, and though it's coming from Germany, but it's also about, giving very strong roots to children. And here I felt that I'm uprooting my child from a joint family house, from the culture of the city that she is born in, because I live in a very beautiful joint family house, and the kind of festival celebrations, the kind of just the daily interactions that she is getting, I think it's amazing, for her. So there we felt that we're doing something wrong. On one side we're choosing an education which wants you to be rooted, and on the other side we are uprooting her from the culture and her family and everybody. So it didn't seem right. So then the only option was to start a Waldorf school in Jaipur.
There's one more question I have, and it's a slightly rude question to ask a lady. When you made this decision to quit your corporate career, how old were you at that time?
I was 32.
You were 32. Okay. So yeah, this gives me an opportunity to share again, and this is something that I keep reiterating to my own students, to any youngsters I come across. There is no expiry date to figuring out your passion. And
Yeah, not at all.
yeah. So you have somebody who is so deeply passionate and has started her own school, which is Touchwood, doing better and better. And so there's no such thing as, oh my God, now I've missed the bus, or I'm in grade 11, I've not figured it out yet. There's nothing like that. So please don't feel that pressure that I suppose consciously or unconsciously society puts on children. Anyway, so yeah, now you put it very casually, because of course you were fueled by your passion that, since I couldn't uproot her, I thought I'll just start my own school, which is easier said than done. Like you yourself said, it's a mammoth task. And I think 99.9% people in your place would have just said, okay, fine, let's just stay in Jaipur. We won't uproot her, but I'll just put her in another school, and not say, let me open my own school. So tell us a little bit about how that decision manifested itself. What happened, after you made that decision? What were some of the challenges that you faced? What happened?
So it's been a roller coaster journey, Karthik, all out and out, and even till date, it just continues. When I just made this decision, how destiny unfolds. I think I've been very lucky to have a lot of angels come down to support this dream, and so it's just like you put the wish to the universe, and then something happens and it makes it true. So as for my luck, a teacher from Hyderabad, Waldorf School, had done the work for 8 years there as a kindergarten teacher, decided to move to Jaipur at the same time. And we got in touch because I was still under my training, I was still in the learning phase. I couldn't have, and I never thought myself to be a teacher really. That was never the thought that I had. So, to open the school, it only happened because I happened to meet her and she decided that she's going to be in Jaipur. So then it was about convincing her to, join hands to, start, the school with me, and I would take care of everything else, and she would take care of the pedagogy and, of the children in the school. Though, when we started the school and even till date, the idea was only to offer quality to a few, children and parents who understood this philosophy. So the
Good.
school's thing has never been to, to grow in exponential way and things like that. That has never
Understood.
been the thought. It's only okay, connect with like-minded parents, run it like a community. And so that was always a thought. So we never also felt like the pressure, that, oh, we
Hmm.
have to have so many children in this and that. Because we were
Right.
never in that rat race, never
Right.
are,
No, but
till date.
that's a very, very crucial point that you've made because, I mean, you and I and the rest of the world, I think everyone's perfectly aware that whether it's, unfortunately, whether it's a school or an educational institution, one is starting or a hospital, they're all run like any other corporate companies with targets and things like that. And there must be a business plan and there must be a certain percentage of bottom line. So the point that you've made is very, very important to understand and appreciate. And I think it's an extension of one's passion that you didn't go into it thinking that, okay, fine, now that I've decided that I'm going to open a school, I'm going to make it this wildly successful venture with 3,000 students in, 6 months.
Yeah. So that was never the thing. We like, okay, whoever comes, great. We just want to have this, So the idea was again very passionate to make it like, okay, whoever understands this can be a part of it and help us grow. So we started with 4 children, Karthik, and they were mostly my friends' children who were around me. So till date, we don't really market the school, in a way like people discover it through the contacts or word of mouth and things like that. So that's what was happening. We started with 4 children, but the idea was so new to Jaipur. An alternate school was so new to Jaipur that it took us a lot of energy to educate the parents as to why we are doing what we are doing. And so of course these were my friends' children. They trusted me, and that's why they were enrolled. But after a year of operation, we had only 6 children, and out of that, 4 children were leaving the school. They were
Okay.
moving to different cities. So
Okay.
most of the children were leaving to different cities. One or two were leaving out. So we were only left with two, my daughter and one more child. So
Okay.
that was a time I had to rethink. I had
Hmm.
to really think that is Jaipur ready? Am I doing something wrong? There was a lot of doubts that came at that point in time when we knew that there would be only 2 children at the end of the session because
Hmm.
parents had shared that they're moving and things like that. So that was a very challenging time for me
Hmm.
personally, because the
Hmm.
other person who had joined as a teacher, because she was a teacher, she decided that, okay, the school is not running, so I'm going to go now.
Hmm.
And she had her own challenges to move on. So
Hmm.
she had decided to move on. And by that time, I was fairly trained, but still not, internally ready to be a teacher. Because I never, again, as I said, I never thought myself to be a teacher. But
Hmm.
that time, it was just this that, okay, we wind up the school and I homeschool my daughter. But when I look at my daughter, she's a very, very social person. Like she loves interacting with other people, she loves interacting with children. So I felt I'm not doing her a favor by, homeschooling her. On again, the same thing that I have to look at who is in front of me. If my child was an introvert, was okay to be alone, it would have been an okay decision probably to
Correct.
homeschool, but I felt it's not right for her.
Hmm.
So after a lot of sleepless nights, one day I woke up and I said, I'm going to continue the school. It was more like a resolve. And also, if I looked at it logically, I felt that, okay, it takes probably like, one day to wind things up, but it takes a lot of efforts to continue when you are
Hmm.
faced with difficulties. So
Right.
I said, okay, I want to give it one more year of all my love and passion to the work and see where it goes. And if
Hmm.
it still doesn't continue, I'll close it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I just gave myself a second chance. That way that I'm not giving up yet. I wasn't
Right.
ready to give up yet.
Right.
So that's the time it started with a second resolve that, okay, this is going to, and I would give it my best. That was my promise to myself. So again, it started like that, and then from 2 children we went to 4, 5, and then on the way I met a few parents who understood what I'm trying to do, and they really supported the school. So and then they supported me, and even the place that we were in at that time in civil lines, the person whose place that was, the landlady, she was so supportive. The parents were so supportive. So I have a lot of people to be grateful and to be thankful for the school to exist today. A lot of support came from the community.
Hmm.
And they could see the good work, I guess, and they
Sure.
could see my hard work and passion towards it. So
Sure.
a lot of people joined hands.
That's so wonderful. That's so beautiful to hear. Uday, a Waldorf inspired school. So why did you
Yeah.
decide to call it Uday? It's a beautiful name. I just want to understand your reasoning here.
Uday really meant a sunrise, like it means sunrise, it means a new light. So the idea was to spread light in this world. And as I said, I really felt that education needed transformation and it needed a new beginning. It needed something different, especially with the Jaipur scenario that I saw. So that's where the name came from, like a sunrise, a new beginning after a lot of darkness. So, and a new ray of hope for children of Jaipur.
So who came up with the name?
My husband.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, tell me, perhaps, I mean, this might be my personal view, that not enough young people these days want to get into education or want to get into teaching. Those that do perhaps are not doing it for the right reasons. If I was to ask you a very general, generic type of question, that what if you have a youngster, let's say in grade 8, 9, or 10, who's very, very passionate about teaching and education and would want to get into teaching himself or herself, at some point maybe explore opening their own school, what kind of advice would you give young people interested in education?
I think one that you need to pat your back if you're getting into education, you need to be very, very proud. Two, I would say do it for the right reasons. Like only if you really feel the passion for it. Because this job is very tough. Kartik, you're an educator yourself. Like for each child, the responsibility that a teacher carries, it's huge. Like you really directly feel responsible for everything that the child is undergoing, not only in
Absolutely.
the school but also at home. Like if I hear some child say my parent hit me, I feel directly responsible to talk to the parent and resolve that for them. So it is a very, very responsible job. So my only advice is that take it in all sincerity and just go ahead. It's the most noble of profession in a way that you directly impact so many lives. So I feel, and the love that you get is amazing. So it is though people say it's not a rewarding job, in a way, but I feel it's highly rewarding because you get instant feedback from your students, and the love that you get from them is actually more than sufficient for you to sustain the job. But it's also very, very hard work. So be prepared to work hard and be prepared to give it your 100%.
That's a wonderful answer. That's a very honest answer. Would it also be fair to tell young people to be prepared for it not to be very financially rewarding, at least in a relative sense, compared to a lot of other careers, perhaps?
I think that needs to change. Like Karthik, in my school, the pay scale is much higher as compared to what I see, in the preschools around me. So I believe that needs to change. And also, and I hope it changes by the time, these students come to take this as a career, because the responsibility that a teacher holds is huge. So I think that should change. But yes, as of now, if I look at the Indian scenario, the pay scale is not very high. And if the teacher is working with younger children, it's considered to be like a
Lesser
lower
job.
role. Yeah, but actually it's a much higher role because
Yeah,
you're actually like a second mother to the child, so, or
absolutely.
a second father that way. So it should be the other way around. The teachers of the kindergarten needs to be paid much, much higher because they have a different role and responsibility, a very tough role and responsibility as well. So I hope that changes for India, and we would be the people who would bring that change. So that needs to happen. But yes, as of now, it is not a very high financially rewarding career.
All right. Okay. Gurpreet, it's been lovely, lovely chatting with you. You've been very forthright, very honest, very upfront. and you shared from your heart. Thank you very much for making the time to be in conversation with me. I continue to respect and admire you hugely, and continue to do the absolutely amazing work that you're doing. And thank you very much for this interaction.
Thank you so much, Kartik. As I said earlier, also, I feel very privileged to be having this session with you and sharing my thoughts. It's always a pleasure to share my heart with, anybody for that matter who's willing to give it a listening ear. So, thank you so much for having me. And
My pleasure.